Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're jumping right into something that, well, it's a paradox that frankly is just stunning. Imagine this. A country allocates a massive sum of money. We're talking $209.3 billion for roads and bridges. Critical stuff.
Right. Infrastructure meant to connect communities, drive the economy. A huge investment.
Exactly. But then you look at the reality on the ground, and that's where things just don't add up.
They really don't, because the sources we've gathered, they paint a totally contradictory picture. Despite that incredible amount of money, interior travel is described as consistently hazardous.
Hazardous and often just impassable.
Fundamentally unreliable.
So that's our mission for this deep dive. We have to go beyond just the budget numbers. We're looking at sources that allege systemic failures.
Right. Failures in how this money is actually being spent in these interior regions.
We're going to get into construction quality or the lack of it, the oversight that seems to be missing, and maybe most importantly, the whole issue of contract transparency. It seems to be at the root of all this.
We're basically tracing the entire failure chain. Starting with, the actual dirt and mud on the ground.
And following it all the way up.
All the way up to the approval process, the contracts.
Yeah.
Right at the top levels of government.
Okay, let's unpack this. Before we get into the technical side of road building, let's ground this in reality. Who is actually using these roads? I mean, who relies on them every single day?
The sources make this incredibly clear. This is about life and livelihood.
These aren't just scenic routes?
No, not at all. These are essential arteries for the entire interior economy. And they're all managed by the Guyana Geology and Mines Commission, the GGMC.
So who depends on these arteries?
Well, you're talking about a huge cross-section of the population out there. You've got the miners, the loggers moving timber.
People whose entire business relies on moving heavy equipment and product.
Exactly. And then you have the transportation operators, the shopkeepers waiting for supplies, and of course the actual residents just trying to get from A to B.
Just trying to get home.
Right. The sources really stress that these routes are essential for both their livelihoods and their safety. So when a road fails, and they fail constantly, the whole regional economy just stops.
It's an immediate crisis then, not some slow decay. The costs are felt right away.
Immediately. And the sources, they don't just talk about a general problem, they actually name a specific player who's allegedly involved.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they point to a company called VALS Construction. They identify them as a major contractor in these regions. And the allegation is pretty serious.
What's the claim?
Mismanaging state resources and consistently providing, and this is a direct quote, substandard work.
Wow. Okay, so that changes things. This isn't just about bad weather or a difficult environment.
No, it suggests the problem is the quality of the work itself.
Yeah.
Which really sets the stage for, the technical reasons for the failure.
It's the how and the why?
Precisely. Because if the work is substandard from day one, it doesn't matter if you have $200 billion allocated. The road is doomed before the first truck even drives on it.
And this is where it gets really interesting for you, the listener, because we move from the money to the mud. Why are these roads failing so spectacularly?
This is the core engineering issue the sources point to.
It's all about the materials.
It's all about the materials. The roads are being built largely with just ordinary mud.
Mud. Not gravel, not asphalt. Mud.
Just mud. When the material that should be used, the absolute necessity for these heavy-duty roads in tropical areas, is something called laterite.
Okay, laterite. I've heard the term, but what makes it so different? What's the magic here compared to mud?
Well, laterite is a special kind of soil. It's really rich in iron and aluminum oxides. And when you excavate it, dry it, and compact it properly, something amazing happens.
Okay.
It basically petrifies. It undergoes a chemical change and forms this incredibly rigid, durable, almost concrete-like base. It's designed to be waterproof and to bear immense loads.
The kind of loads you'd get from logging and mining trucks.
Exactly. And mud, the substitute they're reportedly using, is the complete structural opposite.
In every way, I'm guessing.
In every single critical way. First, obviously it holds water. So the second it rains, the road just turns into a swamp.
Right.
Second, it has very low shear strength. It can't support heavy loads without just squishing out of the way. And third, you can't compact it. There's no stable base to build on.
So a truck drives on this supposed road, and it just starts to fall apart. What about when it dries? Does it get better?
No, it gets worse in a different way. It has what engineers call high plasticity. Think of it like wet clay. When it's wet, it's soft, you get these huge ruts. It's impossible to get up any kind of slope. Then when the sun bakes it, it doesn't harden into a nice surface. It cracks. It shatters. The whole foundation just turns to dust.
So the failure is literally built into the road from the start.
The choice of material guarantees it will fail.
But a contractor like VALS Construction is only one part of the equation. I mean, you don't just build a road. Someone has to inspect it. Someone has to sign off on it.
And that's where the sources point to this massive oversight failure happening at the exact same time.
So the technical problem meets a systemic one.
That's the critical intersection. The process described is, well, it's deeply concerning. Contractors show up. They use what the source calls meager resources to dig a path.
Meager resources, so not the right equipment.
Probably not.
No.
And then the GGMC engineers, the very people meant to ensure quality, they come in and approve this substandard, mud-based work.
So it's not just a contractor cutting corners. It's the regulatory body allegedly letting them.
It implies a total breakdown of the regulatory structure.
A resource failure on one side, enabled by a regulatory failure on the other?
Exactly. And it's not just the roads. The sources are specific about the bridges, too. Same problem.
Oh, wow.
They report the trucks can only use these new bridges for a few days before they just break or collapse entirely.
A few days.
We are not talking about years of stress. This is immediate catastrophic failure under minimal use.
Let's try and bring this home for you, the listener, because the sources have this one image that just perfectly captures the danger here. It sticks with you.
Oh, it's visceral. It's a photo of a utility vehicle. It's overturned, just stuck sideways on this incredibly steep, muddy hill.
And you can just see from the photo the road surface it's a mess.
The description confirms it. The surface was totally uneven, completely unstable, and waterlogged. The accident was a direct result of the road's condition.
That image, it's not a spreadsheet failure, is it? It's a terrifying daily gamble for people. And the source is clear this isn't a one-off incident.
That's the most alarming part. This has become routine. This level of danger, this kind of failing infrastructure, is just the accepted reality of travel in these areas.
So if this is the norm, we have the physical danger, but what's the economic damage? The cost to the public must be absolutely immense.
It has to be. The constant deterioration just piles costs directly onto people and local businesses.
Like what, specifically?
Damaged equipment, for one.
Yeah.
Trucks and vehicles breaking down constantly. Then there are the delays, critical supplies not getting through, and of course the increased safety and insurance risks.
And when a bridge that's 3 days old collapses?
The entire economic flow of that region just stops cold. The source makes it clear that the public pays twice.
How so?
First, they pay through their taxes for the road to be built badly, and then they pay again, constantly, for repairs, for damaged goods, for lost time.
It's a cycle of failure, and it makes that initial $209.3 billion investment seem almost meaningless. Which brings us to the big question.
Why does it keep happening?
Exactly. If the technical problem is so obvious, mud versus laterite, and the consequences are so severe, why isn't it being fixed? We have to look at the contracts.
And this is where we have to connect the technical failure to how the public's money is actually managed.
Yeah.
The sources say the way these contracts are handled is fascinating.
Fascinating how?
Well, there's essentially no transparency.
Meaning?
Meaning these contracts are not put out for public tender.
Oh.
They're processed entirely internally, behind closed doors, which immediately removes any kind of public accountability or competitive pressure on price and quality.
And that kind of internal process, it just opens the door for problems. So,
it dramatically increases the risk of corruption and poor quality work being accepted.
and does the source identify who has the final say? Who signs off on these internal contracts?
It does. The person named as the final authority is the Minister of Natural Resources, Mr. Vickram Bharrat.
So the buck stops at the ministerial level.
That's where the ultimate approval power lies, after the GGMC engineers have already given their sign-off.
Which raises some pretty significant questions about accountability, especially if you're approving what amounts to a mud road. What do the sources allege about why this keeps getting approved?
This is the most serious allegation in the material we reviewed.
Yeah.
And we have to be clear, we are strictly reporting what the sources allege.
Understood.
The reports indicate that for these contracts to be awarded and for the engineers to approve the substandard work, there are alleged kickbacks
Kickbacks?
to the minister and to the engineers who are involved in the approval process.
So if that's true, it explains the entire mechanism. The whole system would actually be incentivized to fail.
Exactly. It would incentivize using cheap, meager resources like mud because the profit margin is so much bigger.
And that margin is then allegedly shared.
Creating a self-sustaining cycle. Substandard work becomes profitable for a few, while the public foots the bill for infrastructure that lasts a few days, maybe a few weeks, and costs so much more in the long run.
Faced with all this, the sources mention a specific organization, WN, calling for change. What do they want to see happen?
WIN is calling for a complete structural overhaul. They want the ministry to prioritize building roads that actually work.
And their demands are pretty specific.
Very specific. And they all center on transparency. They want all future contracts to be openly and publicly tendered.
So end the internal process.
And they completely. And on top of that, they're demanding independent review of the projects to make sure quality standards aren't just words on a page, but are actually enforced.
A clear plan to fix a broken system.
It links the technical failure right back to the need for administrative reform. So if we just, connect all the dots here, this deep dive shows a really dangerous combination.
On one hand.
On one hand, you have the technical failure, that choice to use cheap, inadequate mud instead of durable laterite. And on the other, you have this alleged systemic failure.
Driven by a lack of transparency and these serious reports of corruption.
In both the regulatory and the approval process.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? You now have this comprehensive picture of the paradox we started with.
Right. You can see the immediate physical dangers for people living and working there.
You understand the specific engineering reasons for why the roads are failing so fast. It's the materials. And you also see the reported obstacles.
The internal contracts, the allegations of misconduct, all the things preventing the problem from being solved, despite that huge $209.3 billion figure.
It really lets you see past the big numbers on a budget report.
And understand the real complexity of why a huge budget doesn't always translate to usable, safe infrastructure, especially when accountability is lost.
So what stands out to you? Is it the engineers allegedly approving mud roads? Yeah. Or just the sheer scale of the waste?
I think the most provocative thought to leave you with is about the ultimate cost. The source highlights meager resources being used, right? And the roads only last a few days.
Right, before they need more money for repairs.
Exactly. So what is the true total expenditure here? It implies that the actual long-term cost from repairs, lost business, accidents is exponentially higher than the initial budget.
It's a perpetual drain.
A perpetual drain on public funds just to keep paying for things that are designed to fail almost immediately.
A constant and potentially compromised cycle of paying for failure. That is a powerful thought to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
We'll see you next time.